Well, why don't we get started? So I'm here with my colleague Mike Allison of Samsung, Amber Huffman with Google. We're here to talk about the NVM Express State of the Union, giving you an overall view of the organization. And then also Mike's going to dive into some of the new technical proposals that have been ratified over the past year. So I thought that this was really interesting to look at the language of storage and how this is evolving with NVMe. And so what's interesting in this chart, a similar chart was shown last year in the State of the Union talk, and there was a straight march up and up and up. What you'll notice in this chart is if you take a look at the 2023, there's actually quite a bit of a pause, right? And this represents a pullback that all of us have seen in the macroeconomic and the data center this year. However, what you'll notice is even though you see that pause, what's navy blue there is NVMe. So that total number of bits had a bit of a pause in the shipments in enterprise. However, it continued to be more and more NVMe. And then what we're seeing projected by IDC is that coming into 2024, we resume that very healthy growth rate. So you can just see the overall macroeconomic uncertainty that everybody's been dealing with. So you had a bit of a pause there. Now, if we look at also on a petabytes basis, this is another interesting example of how things have changed over the last year. If you look into 2022, what you see is enterprise has effectively half of what the number of petabytes that went into cloud. And then client, it just ships a lot of things and a lot of devices, so client continues to ship more. Now, if we look into 2023, what's interesting is that cloud did a major pullback in petabytes is what the forecast is for. So you see 86K petabytes in 2022 pulls back to 53.5K petabytes in 2023 projected, and only a minor pullback in enterprise, right? You see 42 down to 37 in enterprise. But what you can also see in 2023 is that if you break down the client by channel versus OEM, that additional NAND that was not picked up by cloud as previously expected got picked up by the channel. So you can see in 2023 it was a tough year of what the typical place that the storage capacity went. But then as we move into 2024, you get back to this historical where it's looking more like cloud being 2x of enterprise in terms of petabytes shipped, and then client just continuing to grow. It's kind of exciting in 2027. We're getting closer to a million petabytes, which I'll have to figure out whether that's Zeta or whatever it is, but we're getting there. So now my opportunity is talking about the NVMe organization is to talk a little bit about how we're structured and how people can have impact. So how we're structured is we have the board of directors, and so I'm chairing the board of directors. Curtis Ballard of HPE is our treasurer, and Dave Landsman of WD is the secretary. On the technical work group, Peter Anufric, he's been here from the start, continues to chair the technical work group. And on the marketing work group, we have Cameron Brett and Carrie Munson. Now, what serves and makes this really happen is nothing occurs really at the board level. There have to be real work and a lot of hard work in many subgroups to deliver really great new innovations. So we have computational storage. I believe there's some computational storage deep dives that are occurring this week that I recommend checking out. So Kim Malone and Bill Martin lead that. There's fabric and multi-domain subsystems, and that's being led by Fred Knight and Eric Smith. On management interfaces, so the fun of how do I actually know what's going on with my NVMe device, that's led by Austin Bolin and John Geldman. For interop and compliance, this is the team that works extensively with UNH IOL on our interop program and making sure that we have high-quality devices in the market. That's led by Ryan Holmquist. One newer subgroup that we haven't had historically is NVMe over boot. You may hear it called Timberland, was the separate SIG that was related to this. And so Phil Caton, Rob Davis, and Doug Farley are going to give you a little bit of an overview of what the current status is, and they've made tremendous progress, and now that specification is out. Now, you can imagine, as NVMe's grown, one of the things we used to pride ourselves on, it was say, 200 pages in the beginning. It's ballooned to have many more than 200 pages, and we continue to evolve over, a decade on. And so what we found is We really want to utilize the time of the technical work group each week. There's this sacrosanct 2 hours on Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. We want to have as much deep technical discussion in that as possible and not spend that time fixing errata and arguing over, commas and punctuation. And so Mike Allison, sitting here, he had a great idea of let's start an errata subgroup. And in the errata subgroup, what it's doing is really getting to having that initial discussion and debate about any technical flaws or non-technical flaws that we want to update, and then getting that to a highly polished state and then bringing it back to the technical work group so we optimize our time really effectively. And that's going really well. So super excited that we have all of these leaders that continue to invest so much time in NVMe. Now, when it comes to the board of directors, we have 13 slots for board of directors. Each year, we have in the November timeframe, we have a call for new members that would like to call for any members that would like to become board members. The requirements for that are it needs to be a contributing member or promoter member to run for the board. And then there's just simply filling out who's your proposed candidate. It's basically a one-page form. And then the elections get held in December. This list here represents our current board of directors, and so really super pleased with all the strong names that you see on this page, where you come from both the customer side, you have enterprise, you have hyperscale, and you have a plethora of amazing SSD suppliers that we're very blessed to work with. So in terms of elections, it's half of the board is each year, so 6 or 7 slots open up each year. So if you're interested in that, please let me know, and happy to help you with more details as we get to that space. So obviously, the organization's been going effectively since 2009. So after close to 15 years, we continue to figure out how can we do things better and how do we scale the organization with new tools. So one tooling update that we've been looking at is just how to provide better tooling that makes everybody's life easier. So one thing we've done is we've moved over to Zoom, and that's just an easier, from WebEx, it just has a little bit broader support on different platforms and makes it easier for us all to collaborate. A second item is we went from Kavi to Causeway as our tool for supporting all of our documentation and materials for the long term. And a big piece of that is really to get regular maintenance and regular updates so that we can continue to evolve and get the best tooling as we move forward. And then the other one I wanted to call out is Bugzilla. So you can imagine that with how many specifications we have and the pages and whatnot, it's important to actually have, rather than just keeping a spreadsheet of what are the things we need to work on, having an actual bug tracking system to figure out what are we doing with the spec and what's important. And it also allows us to have some ability to mark things as this is a high priority issue, like a functional bug that really needs to get fixed, or this is a cosmetic issue and we'd really like to make this prettier and make this more understandable. So in that way, we can also get some additional clarity and understand what do we need to do in terms of priority order for how we address bugs. Another thing that we've done, this is probably the third website redesign over our history. So our friends at Nereus and on the marketing team did a tremendous job of working with a website designer to try to update the website so that it was easier to find material, and I'll give you a few pointers on that shortly. So that's just modernizing, and if you have feedback on, hey, I still can't find this, or something's missing that you do feel should be there, please just let us know, because we want it to make it useful for the public and for everybody to find the information they need. I spoke on the last slide about the errata task group, so we really feel like that's been a big help of try to remove some people love doing errata and some people do not. And so trying to give those that love doing errata the time, and for some reason, Mike has always loved errata and rules, so it's awesome. One thing that we haven't rolled out much at NVMe as of yet, but I wanted to let everybody know. So what we've done is, because of the different entity rulings that have occurred with the challenges of working across the globe, for a while there, it was unclear whether NVMe could host software. If we look back in the day and when we were first doing NVMe over Fabrics, we had a task group that was doing Fabric driver development. So this is going back to circa probably 2015. What we found is that as part of some of the entity rulings, it was unclear with the state of the US regulations whether we could do software development within NVMe or not. And so we took a cautious approach. And so for the NVMe over Fabrics boot, the Timberland SIG, that got formed as a separate SIG to do the software development that would then work with NVMe. The latest entity rulings have made it clear that software in furtherance of a standard is covered as part of standards activities. And so we now have the clarity that we can do software development in furtherance of the NVMe standard within NVMe. And this is really helpful because we want to make sure that we're protecting our members, that confidential material on the specs that aren't yet, on the specifications that aren't yet ratified, that's for members only. So what we've been able to do with this updated ruling is we've been able to create a software task group framework. So what this does is it lays out, it was sent to all members probably 2 months ago of this framework document. But what it does is it sets out that what are the requirements of if we want to set up a software task group to do some particular function. For example, if we wanted to standardize and do software development for the new feature live migration, we could choose to formulate and set up a software task group that's set up for that and pick the different open source development rules and just do development within NVMe if we chose to until the ratification. So this is just an additional tool that we've brought to the table. So if there's some development feature that you really want to start development on before the spec is ratified, we now have that opportunity. You can bring a TPAR, a technical proposal authorization request, just like for a new technical proposal, and say, hey, let's start development of this as a community together within NVMe pre-ratification. So that's out there. So if there's interest in doing anything there, let me know. So this is a view of the modern NVMe website. It looks much cooler, and we're definitely taking the tagline, the language of storage. So what you can see here is just simply like the specifications page of how to quickly figure out what specifications are available. So we've refreshed the pages, updated the user interface, and we reorganized quite a bit and did some cleanup. So we have the specifications, the blogs, the webinars. So we really want to make sure that people have the content they need to understand whether you're, just getting into particular features or if you're a deeper power expert, to get into more material. So some of the resources we have an education page at the website that you can dive into some webcasts. We have a blog that describes some additional material on different features and different topics. We have the YouTube channel, so nothing like the talking head videos if you want to check out something on your favorite topic. The NVM command set, Mike's got a great one there, so check that out. And then the LinkedIn channel, so plenty of material of what's going on. So I definitely recommend, if you're not part of the LinkedIn channel, to join the LinkedIn channel, because that's definitely where the marketing team publishes, hey, check out this latest different resource to take a look at. So in the NVMe 2.0 family of specifications, last year there was a very similar picture shown, and the main thing I want to call your attention to that's different this year than last year is the network boot UEFI specification on the right-hand side in the lower box just below the NVMe management interface specification. So that is what I've been calling the Timberland specification, or the NVMe over Fabrics boot. And that is something that there'll be a deeper dive by Phil Caton and several other people later today talking about Timberland. Now, we are super busy in NVMe. It's kind of breathtaking how much work is going on within the organization, and that really is a testament. This can't be a single person or just a handful of people. It's really the great community we've built over the years. So since we released the NVMe 2.0 family of specifications 2 years ago, we have had 60 new proposals for new technical features. So 60, that's pretty big. Then we've had ratified technical proposals to be 69. That's a portion of the new, but also some that were authorized pre-2.0. And so that continues to grow. And then 13 ratified errata. And so it's just continuing to evolve, and how we look forward to everybody's ideas on how we can have more and more impact with NVMe, especially as the whole world evolves with the generative AI moment we're in. So in terms of the NVMe specification roadmap, a couple things I wanted to highlight since last year. So if we look at after Flash Memory Summit last year at the end of 2022, we had a few different things that got ratified. One was scalable resource management. That is a capability for how you can get some composable and different scalable resources in a fabric type environment or with computational storage, and Mike may touch on that a bit more. We have the network boot UEFI, which is the Timberland specification, which is a whole new specification that we'll be talking about further. Flexible data placement also has a lot of discussions going on. Flexible data placement is a way to reduce write amplification factor with a little less software overhead. There's several presentations going on. That was ratified at the end of Q4, and I think you'll certainly see potentially some product announcements around that, so we're super excited about that. And then there's Key per IO. Key per IO is a security feature that was going on for many years that we were working on with Trusted Computing Group, and we finally got over that last mile of getting both the NVMe portion and the Trusted Computing Group portion completed. So that's now done. Another feature in the middle of this year that we completed was a cross namespace copy. So that allows you to copy different data between one namespace to another. And then to highlight two big things that we're working on that we're trying to wrap up by the end of this year. The first is computational storage, which is composed of both computational programs and subsystem local memory, and there'll be deeper dives into those. And then a new effort that started this year called live migration. Microsoft, Google, Samsung are spearheading a live migration definition. This is to allow, how do I end up that if I have a host that goes down in a cloud environment or some devices, how do I end up migrating that data in a seamless way to a different portion of my infrastructure and have the VM and the customer have no idea that happened? And so trying to standardize that rather than just the vendor-specific way we've done this in the past. So a very rich roadmap offering a lot of tools for everyone. Now, in terms of specification advancements, the things that I would call out, and I highlighted a few of them last page. The first one is flexible data placement, so reducing write amplification. I think you'll find in several of the talks that you'll see at this event that we have measured data that's showing going from, in a lot of workloads where you have a write amplification factor of, say, 2 or more, to go to close to 1.0. And so that's a huge benefit, and doing that without a major stack rewrite. So we're excited for what this can bring to the industry, and you'll hear more about that in upcoming presentations. A second one is what I've touched on several times, is this network boot UEFI. So how we have this new network storage functionality that I can boot from NVMe over the network in a standard way. And so you'll hear more about that. Computational storage. So how do we execute programs within a device and really try to avoid transferring all the data back and forth? You may have filtering functions or other things that could be done on the device itself. And so Bill Martin, Kim Malone, and others will tell you more details on the state of computational storage and where we're at there. And then lastly, but not least, is live migration. Mike is going to do a talk on live migration of how we seamlessly move data across virtual machines and do that in a way that the customer doesn't know. And that's really the key here, is that the customer or the VM can't know that all of a sudden you swapped all this stuff out from underneath them. And so that's what makes it really challenging of that quality of service. So with that, NVMe is going well. We certainly have a lot of things going on, and we keep refactoring and keep having more people come to the community, as well as those that have been here with us the entire time, and excited to see what we do with storage in the age of where we go next as an industry. So I can take a few questions if anybody wants to ask any questions, or we can bring Mike up to the stage. Yeah, so the question was the IDC projections. How do we justify the hockey stick-like growth after 2023? Why does it resume? So I am not. This is IDC data, and obviously the next one that also shows this same trend is Forward Insights. So the two of the different data analyst companies have that same projection of resuming the traditional uptake rate. And so at least from what many of us are seeing in the macroeconomic environment, from different earnings calls, people are calling the bottom, right, for different memory vendors, and then that normal consumption patterns will resume. So now, does that bottom already happen, or will it soon? But once that bottom happens, then you would expect the normal consumption patterns to resume. So I think that's all that this is reflecting.